We've been having this approach since the very beginning. So what is new? You undertake such a huge change in the educational system. Pwede ba? Mag-piloting muna tayo. Sorry ha, I'm holding my hand like this because I'm holding the mic. Hindi ko alam kung saan napunta yung para ma-attach yung mic sa blusa ko. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Well, obviously, the biggest headline is the national energy emergency that has been declared by the president. Declaring it means that he has gotten the permission from Congress to declare it, and then he has some special powers. Anyway, what are my initial thoughts about this national emergency situation? Yes, declare it because everybody knows that there is an emergency. Yes? Does the emergency consist of? Well, the first big problem is the fact that we might be running out of oil or that we might not be able to afford the oil that is available. That's number one. What's number two? Apparently, the Strait of Hormuz is also vital for pharmaceuticals and for something called helium, which are very important for semiconductors and, of course, for medicines for us, plus fertilizers pa. So the effect on the economy is more than we thought. There's going to be inflation with respect to food, maybe with respect to rice. I don't know how much buffers we have, but that's the second thing. So we have the problem of inflation. The inflation really pales into comparison with the problem of no supply of oil. When the president declared it, he said, there must be a whole of government approach. We are going to have a whole of government approach. There is closer coordination. There must be very close coordination between the transport department and finance and all that. But my question is, didn't we have it before? I know that as far as the Philippine Development Plan is concerned and trying to get that Philippine Development Plan targets achieved, was we required the whole of government, and not only the whole of government, the whole of society approach. So, para bang I get frustrated because these are words that are given parang it's to make us feel comfortable. We've been having this approach since the very beginning. So what is new? Does that mean that the cabinet secretaries have not been coordinating with each other? That's what we have the NEDA board for. That's what we have the cabinet clusters for. So what is new about declaring the state of emergency or of energy emergency? Well, in other words, what we are looking for is what is the president going to do? And up to now, he has not said. I would like to see plans from the Department of Development and Development, Economy and Planning, or whatever that is, NEDA before. There should be some plans now, and we should be able to vet those plans because one of the conditions, I think, of the emergency, of the declaring emergency, is that the president should be transparent. Let us see what those plans are, and let us make sure that they're just not takip butas plans, but really, we have to find out whether those plans, the costs and benefits of those plans are such that the benefits are greater than the costs, hindi ba? Please show us the activities that you are going to undertake, and what is the hard evidence that these activities are really going to be helpful rather than harmful. That's all we want. For example, there's talk about price controls. How long will those price controls be? You know what price controls, when there are price controls, that means you are not allowing the market to ration the supplies. You are going to those supplies, because there is going to be a shortage when you have a price control. When you have a price ceiling, there is going to be a shortage. So how are you going to ration the scarce supplies to the shortages? Government will ration it, government discretion, with all the chances for corruption or under the table. Let's not do it. Let's not let's not go that way. And besides, when you have a price ceiling, there is no incentive for supplies to increase. So you are making the situation worse. That's that's the That's the textbook explanation, and it has been validated all over the place. So there's a price control. You have demand and supply, and you have price. So the question, so I'm saying again, who is going to ration that portion? I already said the two problems with price control is that who is going to ration, and second, you're going to be disincentivizing the supply. I already talked about that. Ngayon, now, there's another, that the government will take over the the oil corporations. Ang tanong ko naman dyan who is going to manage for the government? What do they mean by taking over? That means that the decision making will be done by the government. Does the government have the competence to do that? Or are we going to be going from bad to worse? And they say, hindi, kasi these corporations are getting, excess profits. They're profiteering. Well, then, if they're profiteering, let's audit their books. And if they're profiteering, let's punish them for that profiteering. But let's not jump into the situation and go from that frying pan into the fire. No? What am I saying, mga anak? I'm saying, let's not go helter-skelter into it. Let's not, you know, parang we're going around without like chickens without heads. Let's think. And again, this was my message last time. This is my message this time. What we need is financing to help us through this dark spot. All right. Now, the one good thing I got recently is that the Asian Development Bank is going to come up with an emergency financing package for countries who are going to be hurt by this oil crisis. That's a good thing. I want to know how much can we expect from that. In other words, we need revenues to help the poor. We don't need activities that will help the rich. We want to help the poor. And what am I talking about? I'm not talking about the those who are income poor. I'm talking about actually the bottom. That's who I want to help. That's who should be helped. The bottom 50% of our population. That's who. 55 million, 60 million people. That's who I want to help. So what do they need? They need help because prices have gone up too much, etc. Right? So what we need is to give them ayuda, not the ayuda that requires congressmen, etc. Not that kind of ayuda. I want it automatic na If you're at the bottom, and the DSWD has all this information. So, where are going to get this financing from? Well, there's the ADB. I don't know how much there is. Last time I talked about the confidential funds. We can do that too. But I want a new revenue source that is not going to affect this bottom 50% or even the other 40%. And what do I mean by that? I mean a tax on not the rich. I'm talking about a tax on the very, very rich. Is it an income tax? No, it's a wealth tax. I talked about this before. I want to explain it more. It's a tax on what they own, not on what they are earning. And we can start with people who have over 3 billion pesos worth of assets. How many Filipinos are going to be hurt by this wealth tax? I computed 50 Filipinos. About 50 Filipinos have uh, assets over 3 billion pesos. Diyos ko, unbelievable. So that's what I meant. Where did I get this information? From the Forbes magazine, which publishes the 50 wealthiest in terms of what they own, not what they earn, Filipinos. And from that, these 50 million, these 50 Filipinos have $86 billion worth of wealth among them. Surely, yes, they will be hurt by the tax, but it is only a one-time tax. We hope that we don't. Well, actually, they are the people we are going to go to every time we have a crisis. So it is it is to their advantage, to their benefit, if they make sure that we don't have a crisis like this again. Okay? So that's it. If you have any other ideas about where we are going to get we need the extra revenues, because the revenues that we are earning now are already nakataya with all the other projects that are for the development of the Philippines. We cannot save the Philippines now at the expense of the Philippines in the future. You know what I mean? So let's do it. We can do it. If you can suggest to me or suggest to the government any other tax that will not hurt the poor, then you are welcome. But in the meanwhile, I think that a wealth tax is very, very significant contributor to the solution of our crisis. Now, while everybody's been talking about this and asking me questions like, what do you think of President Marcos declaring a national emergency? I said, what's there to declare? It is a national emergency. He has declared it. He just said what we all know, right? That's it. What is important is what is going to do about it, and it better be rational, and its effects must be, on the whole, positive for us. Now, there's another situation that has come up na medyo natagpan because of this emergency mga headlines. That is that the president signed this so-called Trimester System for our elementary schools. Trimester. Anong ibig sabihin now? Noon? Well, from before, our schools have been run on a quarterly basis, every quarter. So yung report card ng mga estudyante, mga anak natin, is every quarter merong report, hindi ba? Ngayon, ang gagawin nila, instead of dividing the school year into 4 quarters, they're going to divide it into 3 semesters. Obviously, you can see what is going to be the benefit of that. it is going to save the teachers and the administrators a hell of a lot of time and effort. Now, whether that saving of the time and effort is going to result in a better quality of student, that's a huge jump in logic, and I'd like to see some basis for making that logical jump. I haven't seen anything, and the the newspapers, the media have not shown anything that shows that a trimester is better than quarterly as far as student quality or the quality of education of the students is concerned. Sabi nila, well, in the quarterly system, we 57 days were wasted because of storms, etc., etc. Will those 57 days not be wasted with a trimester? We're talking about the same places, right? If that's what they're saying, that, they said in the quarterly system we lost 57 days of school. Well, do you think that we will not lose that with a trimester? What is going to be different? It's the students still go a certain amount of time a year, hindi ba? Mga anak, we have a crisis. We have had a tremendous education crisis since time immemorial, but it's getting worse. How do I know it's getting worse? Well, the learning poverty of the Philippines, meaning to say the percentage of children 10 years old who cannot write a text or make a whatever criterion they have, the percentage of that is 90% in the Philippines who cannot write a text or make a computation, whatever. That's 90%. Do you know how much it is in Thailand? It's only something like 36%. You know how much it is in Vietnam? It's only something like 18%. Tayo, 90% mga anak. Diyos ko po, is that not a crisis? All right. How does changing our our school year from 4 quarters into 3 semesters, how will that help? I'd like to know. But never mind. Baka naman meron the Education Commission has recommended that. But anyway, the point is, before you undertake such a huge change in the educational system, pwede ba mag-piloting muna tayo? Hindi, that is so standard operating procedure. When you're going to do something, you pilot it first. Maybe, maybe for 1 year or whatever, and find out what the effects are. Instead of just saying, well, we have a crisis, maybe this will do it. Hindi ganyan. You do that. I don't know what family will do that. Usually, when you're going to go in, you're going to change, you have to find out what are the pros and what are the cons, and then you try it out. Why are we not doing that? Why are we all of a sudden, basta pinag-isipan ko, from 4 quarters to 3 semesters? Ano ba naman yan? Is that the way to run a karinderya or a market stall? Siyempre, pag-iisipan yun, ha? So, if that's not the way to run a karinderya, is that the way to run a country?